couple months ago, I witnessed something that was so disturbing and upsetting to me, but at the same time, it's a perfect example of how we get culturally, socially, societally cut off from parts of ourselves, especially the creative part and the intuitive parts of our own mind. So I was in New York, back home in December, visiting my mom and going to all my favorite places, one of which is this historic site that I've been to like hundreds of times in my life. And it's called Old Bethpage Village Restoration. And it's a collection of houses gathered from different areas of Long Island from the years like 16 through 1800s. And they bring them all on this acreage and they restore them. And there's a working farm, an organic farm. There is a blacksmith and a hat maker and all of those things. It's such a fun place, but it's also very, very haunted. And, you know, this is one of those places you go to on field trips as a kid. And I'm just one of those people that is such a nerd that I never stopped going. So it's like most people kind of are over it by the time they're out of elementary school, but I still go every time I go home. So my mom and I were there one night in December. They have these candlelight evenings for, you know, the holidays, and you walk around with a lantern or your flashlight or something. And so it's at nighttime, it's extra creepy. And we were online to get into a house, and behind us was a family, and it was their first time there. It was two parents and a child there. The parents were kind of complaining about the long lines at places, and they'd clearly never been there before. And their son, who's behind me, is rattling on about the history of this house that he's never been to before. And he's right. He's talking about the family who lived there, and he's talking about like some of the history. And I'm like, oh my God, to my mom, like, this kid's psychic. and his parents start making fun of him, like actually mocking him. The two of them were ganging up on him, making fun of him, and like every word out of his mouth, they had a comeback. They were just shutting him down at every turn. And it really like got me a little fired up. I mean, I'm not a parent, so I don't know what that's like. So I bit my tongue, but I really wanted to go off. I mean, I was like, this is disturbing to hear two parents ganging up on their kid like this. I digress. Anyway, the point of this is it really made me think about how like that kid's psychic, you know, and I do believe we are all psychic. I believe when we are born, we have access to the Wi-Fi of the universe, and we are systematically disconnected from it at every turn by people like that kid's parents, like so close to home. So it doesn't just happen in your home, but it happens societally, culturally. We are always being separated from that part of ourselves. And you know, when I talk about thinning the veil of the mind, that's coming back to your intuition, your inner knowings, your body knowledge. Intuition isn't just like connection to the ether. Intuition serves a biological purpose. Intuition is absolutely biological. And this is why we're so cut off from ourselves, because we can't even know what's true without having some logic attached to it. Truth and logic don't always go together. They exist on their own terms, each of them. So thinning the veil of the mind is such an important practice, because the veil represents actually more like a fortress or a wall that the, you know, society kind of instills in us over time. And it just keeps compounding on that. It just keeps like chipping away at our ability to have anything extra than what's visible, what's out there, what we know, when there is all this other stuff inside that we know that comes from intuition. And I always point to this because I think it's like the vagus nerve or whatever is like transmitting that information. For me is like it's an internal column, and that's what it is. It arises, you know, we have gut feelings and we have heart feelings, and we have, these are our three brains, right? So, and they're called that for very real reasons, because of the neural activity that transmits information. So when you don't have access to your own intuition, you can't make effective decisions without overthinking. So thinning the veil of the mind serves a very real purpose, like just makes life a little easier, a little bit more intuitive. You're a little bit more in flow, but it also is going to, you know, elevate your intuition. So you have more knowings and understandings. You have more just like instantaneous intuition for things. And that can't help but make life better, influence your manifestations, your spell work, So I am teaching a workshop called Thinning the Veil of the Mind, specifically for this purpose, for, getting back to the source material, the native technology that is inbuilt in you, that you arrived with, so that you can be more intuitive, be more decisive, go through life with more ease, cast more effective, faster spells, faster manifestations, more targeted, more direct. That's what this is about. So I'm going to share several techniques. It's totally free. You can leave a donation if you want, but it's totally not required. Please come. I really, really believe everyone needs to know how to thin the veil of their own mind. It's part of your sovereignty as an individual. Like, culture is putting up that veil at every turn, and you have to learn how to take it down to have a good life. Okay, so join me. I'm sure you can find the link somewhere.